What gets me is that how proud people are of themselves, in these institutions. Oh, geez. In these kind of policies, your question was, with that example that I'm attaching, is can a school have a policy that does not allow parents to observe in their children in class? And isn't a public school a public building? Well, yeah, it is. But this is what parents need to sort of understand. All right. Yes, it's a public school. Yes, they're using your money in the form of public funds. And yes, the entire idea of public education started on a localized level as a consortium of parents in a localized area that pooled their resources together to go hire a teacher, typically in a one-room schoolhouse. And then that concept grew over time. But even with our education system, the hierarchy is still a local level. Now we have a federal Department of Education that didn't even exist until 1978, guys. I mean, think about that. This country's been around a while, and we didn't even have a federal Department of Education singularly. I mean, it was sort of wrapped into another department, but I'm talking about its own standalone department. Didn't even exist until 1978. And so they're exerting pressure down on a system that has always in this country been built. If you read de Tocqueville and any other history books, as far as democracy in America and how things used to be, we had a bottom-up structure. And so it was a localized situation. Well, now we have a federal department pushing down, and then in between we have a state government that is doing the bidding of the federal government, but then also sort of protecting the little baby aliens known as the individual public schools. And then you have the complexity on top of it that because we do have a bottom-up structure in this country with regards to public education, every one of these school systems are their own sort of independent corporate governmental entity, separate from the rest. And they all sort of have to work in tandem with each other with all of these various rules and exerting pressures. But at the end of the day, it's a localized system. So can it ban parents? Well, it's your school. It's your school system. Do you know how to stop that real quick? As you get a bunch of parents involved, and you start raising hell at your your board meeting. I mean, that's where you got to do it, because I mean, this is nonsense. But tell them that. And quite frankly, they sit there and you use words like best practice. Where is that written? Because I was educated in the old days, the 70s and 80s. All right, as far as elementary school and on through high school. And I mean, we had mayhem. I'm not going to say that, but what I'm saying is that we had parents walking halls all the time. We had parents popping in. It just wasn't a big deal. But yet, I have a degree. I mean, I don't feel like it was disruptive to me. It just, we live in a different day and age, not because humans have changed. The institution has changed. And so much of that I blame on 9/11, because it so conditioned us as a nation to be phobic and to sit there and be so willing to take a subsidiary or secondary position to our parent government and our protector, the state. And I'm just not one of those people. All right, I liked how things were pre 9/11. I liked how my life was on September 10th of 2001, when I could sit there and pick my, whoever up at the airport at the gate. I liked not being, molested, not going through an airport line. I like those. I know everybody goes, but James keeps us safe. Does it really? Really? It doesn't, guys. Evil people will always find a way to kill, destroy, maim, hurt, mass murder other human beings. It's just that we haven't had it happen again. But it will. But it doesn't mean that we need to be afraid. And it doesn't mean that we need to sit there and close ourselves off from the freedoms we enjoy and then telling government what to do instead of sitting back and allowing government to tell us what to do. These are our kids. And quite frankly, I mean, because I feel so strongly about that, me and my wife both feel so strongly about that, that's why we homeschool our 3 sons. I'm not going to sit there and have the state dictate when I can see my child and dictate what they teach my child and dictate what kind of morals and ethics and teachings that they put into my impressionable child's brain. Because there's a lot of nonsense going on in the world right now that, as long as it isn't threatening me and my peace, then I really don't care what other people do. But at the same time, I mean, these are my kids. These are my wife and I's kids. And so, they're in our charge, and it's my responsibility and our responsibility together to sit there and help them be reasoned, logical individuals that can navigate this world in civility. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I'm sorry, but I'm not handing my child over to the state when the state wants to act like it's doing right now in this situation of dictating to me the terms of attendance. That's insane. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. Those of you who just love this, compulsory education, forcing you to bring your child to them every day, or you'll be arrested. I'm not a party to that crap. And how do you get out from underneath a system like that? You homeschool. And my oldest just took the ACT and did better than most kids in this entire country. So it's not like he's not learning. It's not like he's not on track. But I tell you what, I'm just not going to be subjecting myself to the dictates of people that are sitting there using words like best practice. Because, where's the best practice? Show me where that's best practice. That you limit a parent's ability to observe, and you take away the transparency of neutral perspectives or parents coming in to observe their child. You show me the correlation between that and higher test scores. Because that's what you would need in order to verify best practice, not somebody just using the word best practice and shutting off transparency, and then outright lying and saying that they're protecting student privacy, because that doesn't exist inside of a public school. FERPA applies to student records. It doesn't apply to visually looking at a child and visually hearing instruction going on inside of a classroom. That is absolutely ridiculous. Now, if the school was sitting there plastering children's educational records all along the hallways, then at that point, yes, they could sit there and limit, the parent involvement, because they got student records everywhere and you can't see that. That's FERPA. But unfortunately, there's other students seeing other students' records, and they can't do that either. So they can't put your child's records along the hallway. But it only applies to student records. It doesn't apply to you walking through the hallway or you observing instruction inside of a classroom. That is absolutely ridiculous. Our Supreme Court has already mandated and already said in the 70s that there is no expectation of privacy inside of a public school. It is a public place. It is a public place. FERPA applies to student records, not to visually seeing a child, not to hearing a child, and not to hearing instruction. So that's a crock. Using best practice as an excuse is a crock. And all that is it tells me that that's a school system that wants to remove transparency, wants to limit the number of parents that are seeing what is really going on inside these schools. And that should make all of you as parents shiver. Because I don't know, do you think that makes your child safer? No, it doesn't. That also limits their accountability. It limits their transparency. It limits your ability to hold them accountable. So no, I mean, they can do what they want, but that's on the citizens living within the boundaries of that public school system that are allowing it to happen. And I'm sorry, but we need to start making noise, people. Yeah, I wouldn't put up with this in my school system, but that's not my school system. Only you can change that.